Hi, welcome to Breaking Ground, a podcast about New York City development. And I am Jordan Hoch, and this is Wes Stanton, and this is Lou Madigan. After our premiere episode last week, we got our first piece of hate mail. And
we must be doing something well.
Yes, and so I want to read this to you from Buzzlebood. Three douchey real estate bros chilling and pointing at each other in their best autumn outfits while casually bloviating on a Friday about what communities of color need. Because white developers historically know best what one of the oldest black communities in America should have. How many takes did your admin assistant have to do to get this fake chat finished? Tell me you three don't have a single black friend and you don't live in NYC without saying it. Wow. Wow.
So were we talking about affordable housing, or were we talking about a specific
neighborhood
ethnicity?
Right, a neighborhood. No, well, first of all, we did talk about the 900 units of affordable housing. But what I think it's more about the tone, right? Now we are developers and brokers, and like we can't talk about our views of construction in New York and now it's okay for her to, or him, or whoever this person is, to disagree with what we have to say, but to like call us names and come after us.
My question for this person would be just very simply, we were advocating for more affordable housing in this area. If this is the area they're talking about, would they rather have affordable units or would they rather have a truck stop? Thankfully, we live in a country where you're allowed to have an opinion. So I'll just leave it at that. That being said,
it's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate that but I would encourage this person to keep giving their opinion, because I would like to hear their opinion, even if it disagrees with mine.
But I think the opinion documents exactly what we said in the last podcast, which is to say, no one wants to talk about solving affordable housing crisis or the housing crisis in the city. All they want to talk about is price controls. That there's a housing crisis, it's about to get worse. More immigrants are going to be moving to the United States. They have to survive. Given what's going on in the world, the fertilizer shortage, is going to be starvation in the world in 2023. And people are going to migrate, and I feel like we have a moral obligation to accept those people here in New York City, and we need more housing. And to have any conversation about housing and not talking about supply is just ignoring a real solution, because the solution can't just be price controls when you have people moving here.
And
we need affordable housing everywhere. We talked about it being in Hell's Kitchen. We talked about it being in the outer boroughs. We need to have more affordable housing everywhere. One of Bill de Blasio's better ideas was to create mandatory inclusionary housing zone. If you build more housing, you have to build inclusionary housing to go with it. You know, of the 1,000 things he did, it's one of the things I agree with, because I think we need more affordable housing.
Well, let me give you a scenario. Okay, you took the current housing stock in Manhattan and you said, okay, we're going to lower the prices on all of it. We're just going to lower it. That's the new law, right? What kind of crisis would that create when you have how many more people rushing to Manhattan to get a very small amount of housing stock that's already insufficient for the people that are there?
But we shouldn't. We addressed this last week, so I just think we should thank Buzzlebood for her comment. His comment. We appreciate your thoughts. I actually appreciate the fact that that you're passionate about your community, and it's the combination of developers and communities that come together that can make the housing stock what the communities need. So with that said, thank you, Buzzlebood. Okay, market update. So Wes, it feels like it's not going so hot.
Well, we remember, I think, last episode I talked about, the amount of transactions equaling 2015 to 2019. Well, the third quarter market report came out.
Right.
And the amount of transactions that we did in the third quarter versus 2019 was 44% higher with half the inventory.
Right, but I think we're past.
So hold on.
Come on.
So to say that the world's falling apart is not accurate. That being said,
Come on. Yeah.
that being said,
Yes.
it's definitely
The world's
slower.
falling apart.
Yes.
Tell us
About that. I mean,
what do you think?
Listen,
I'm putting in
the third quarter market report was strong because the third quarter was strong. I think as we're going into the fourth quarter, as interest rates
Continue to go up.
continue to go up, I think there's going to be less transactions happening. I think that prices are not going to drop like in 2008. I think there's not enough inventory.
I think you're going to have sellers on one side thinking the reality is whatever they think it is, and buyers on the other side having different considerations and thinking the reality should be something that different than it is. And prices won't go down, but people will be on either sides, and the amount of transactions will slow. Going
which
into
is a
second
great
quarter next year.
That's a great transition for our first discussion this week about interest rates. Wes, you had some really good observations to point out.
So, it's kind of a tale of two worlds, right? Like Miller Samuels was just commenting on how the super wealthy are buying these crazy expensive properties, that they haven't slowed down their purchasing of these crazy expensive properties. Whereas on the other side, interest rates have forced buyers to buy smaller properties, right? Because obviously, your cost of ownership goes up and you can afford less, right? So I think the average in America was like 100 square feet less on average in terms of what people are purchasing. I don't know what that translates to in Manhattan, but obviously purchase price, like people can afford less, and prices aren't really coming down, at least in Manhattan. So it's kind of a tale of two cities where the affordable, if you want to call that, buyer is struggling, right? But the super wealthy still, is buying whatever they want.
More people rent.
Right.
I think more people.
And
But
sales-
The
can't
rental
afford to
market, but the
buy.
rental market right now is also slowing down.
Right, but it's
More
also
concessions,
it's
things are coming
October,
down.
and we typically see a slowdown in the rental market between October and April.
Well, would people-
if you ever want your lowest rent, find a place in January.
Well, actually,
it could easily be
no.
20% lower than it is in
December. That's when I used to move when I was renting. They're saying that the rental market has peaked on this under $3,000 market, where the landlords are having a hard time getting more money and they're stabilized. But the super luxury market, those $20,000, $8,000 a month one bedrooms, they are still getting the numbers. Rentals and sales work in inverse of each other, and so when the sales market is floundering, the rental market is doing really strong.
So let me ask you a question. This is actually more for Lou. So if there's this flight to, because people can't afford these larger units, right, and they're getting more efficient units, do you think that the future of condo development is going to try and do these more efficient units, like it was before 2008, where most of the new development was more efficient?
No, I think, at least from our perspective, maybe it depends on where you're building in the city. If I was building in Park Slope or, in some, up and coming, there are sections of the Bronx that are flourishing right now, and
Yeah.
there are new markets. I might build more efficient units and thinking about a young buyer or a young
Not
couple.
necessarily Park Slope, but right.
Right, maybe Bushwick.
Bushwick.
What if you bought land, right? You own the property, you've got the financing, you're building something, and you have the opportunity to build something more efficient on the Upper East Side. Do you take the risk of trying to find that super wealthy buyer, or do you build the efficient unit?
But I don't think you can make the numbers work right now.
Building the efficient unit.
You can't build an efficient
Right,
unit
correct.
and sell it
You
for the
can't-
dollar per square foot.
You
that
can't
need.
buy land, build it,
But what if
market it, and get it sold if you're not selling it $3,000 a foot or more.
The deal just doesn't work.
The deal doesn't work. The land prices are so high, construction costs are so high, that you can't buy. I don't think you can buy a property south of 100th Street on Planet Manhattan and not build it for luxury housing. And so that's why we need 421A, so that you can afford to build rental housing, because that's what the market needs. Even though, obviously the condo market is strong in New York, when the rental market might be going through a flux because of the season. But you can't build condos in Planet Manhattan that aren't luxury condos.
Planet Manhattan.
Planet Manhattan.
Yeah, Planet Manhattan. There's other planets, like the planet of Brooklyn.
That's right. Where I grew up,
There's a
born
planet-
and raised.
Planet of
So,
Queens.
so you're
And
basically
I live in
saying,
Hell's Kitchen.
So basically, you're saying if you want to buy a $2 million condo that is a 2 or 3 bedroom, you're buying a resale
That's
for
right.
the future.
Absolutely.
There's just no possibility of the tide turning, even for people that own the land already and are building.
We're not at
condos.
capitulation yet. We're,
No
we're,
capitulation.
we're not at the point where real estate developers are going to say, okay, I'm going to build everything and I'm going to take a lower price, or I'm going to build into a lower price point that isn't a micro unit where I'm still making the same amount per foot, right? Because it's true, because we sometimes when we build in the rental market, sometimes we build studios, we make more per foot than we build 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, although they have a higher turnover, so you end up making the same amount of money. But in the condo market, well, you should tell me, how much do you make a foot, relative between studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms?
Well, I think it's a larger conversation between
same location. If you had the same location, same view, same neighborhood, what's going to get the most per foot? A studio, a 1 or 2, a 3?
Probably a 2 bedroom or a 3 bedroom, but it also
go.
but it also but hold on
Why I'm not going to build a lot of studio condos.
But hold on, but as a developer, you have other concerns as well, like time on the market and your
Yes.
threshold pricing. If you're selling $6 million 3 bedrooms versus two $3 million dollar
I think the point is you
think
need
it's-
$4,000. You need $3,000 a square foot, and if you can't get it, you can't get that for a studio.
And I might build a certain amount of my inventory, 30%, that I think is going to move quickly to help me cover my construction loan.
construction loan and
Right? Because after we build a building, covering the construction loan is the threshold that keeps the developer from going bankrupt. And so you want to pay down the construction loan, and then whatever inventory you have left over, you can really be more careful in when you release it and what the price is to try to maximize your return.
The people that own potential development sites, right? You can't develop a rental building. We know that.
Right.
Right. People are going to be less likely to want to build to a $3,000 or $3,500 a square foot. So what do those developers do? They just sit on it? The owners that have the development site, they just sit on them and wait?
That's one option. Hopefully there's some
Or they sell them
there's a
less,
taxpayer where you keep the property as a parking lot or something like that until the market turns.
But the truth is, this is more of a reason why they're going to continue to build these larger units, because the people who are less affected by these higher interest rates are the ones who are buying the luxury housing.
But I think the point you're making is important, right? That right now, you can't build anything other than luxury housing. But that in the end creates more supply, and more supply will lower the price of something somewhere. It may not be in the same neighborhood because there's only other luxury supply on the Upper East Side. But in the end, more supply will reduce pricing.
So let's talk about something really exciting, like heating costs.
Right.
But I want to talk about heating today because the oil prices are going through the roof, right?
Can't do natural gas anymore.
Can't do natural gas anymore. They're starting to, right? They banned all new buildings making using natural gas starting in 2023 in New York City. And this is going to be a colder winter. Prices are through the roof. Homeowners,
and they're
building
gonna get
owners.
worse. They're going to get much worse.
It's crazy. Last winter, I have a house, and it was $1,600 a month, and it's going to go up 20%. So this year I put in, thanks to you, I called my buddy Lou up, and I was like, I need a heat pump, Lou. I gotta stop paying for this oil. And so what do you think developers are going to do moving forward? What's the most efficient way to?
The most efficient way, if you're cutting out hydrocarbons, right? So the cheapest way to heat a building is burning natural gas. I agree with the notion of getting rid of natural gas to heat buildings, which is the cheapest way to heat buildings, because we need to move away from the use of hydrocarbons in use for heating. The most efficient way today to do it is something called variable refrigerant heating and cooling, essentially high-tech heat pumps. And a really good heat pump system, a VRF system, will generate heat and generate cooling at roughly the same price as burning natural gas to provide heat.
But hold on.
And much cheaper than smaller air conditioning systems,
Right.
generally speaking.
But hold on, I believe most of the electricity in New York is generated by the burning of natural gas.
That's true.
On the plant level.
So
Well, hold on. That's true, but let's separate that for a second.
from
right?
doing it,
Here's my question. You've got all these buildings here running electrical systems. Can the grid even accommodate that?
that we were getting there. No. So
It's
no,
like California that said you can't do any electric cars or gas cars anymore, and then in the same breath said, oh, you can't recharge your cars because there's an electrical crisis.
Yes.
It's insane.
So right now, that's right. So to switch the whole city to an all-electric heating and cooling system is not feasible with the grid we have. Now, in New York, we used to have nuclear power, Indian Point, which has shut down, which I think was the right thing to do.
Considering it almost blew up.
Well, it was built in the 60s. It was supposed to shut down around in the 90s, and it's been extended ever since. We also have 5 hydroelectric dams, right? So we produce
That's good.
hydroelectric power. Most people don't realize Robert Moses built 5 hydroelectric dams in New York.
That can't
in
be
New
that
York State.
efficient. It's like 1930. Like,
That's right. 1950s technology, but there's no more of that coming, right?
Right.
And you can build all the wind and solar you want. It's still not reliable, right? So there's a time when the wind doesn't blow.
As somebody who has a house with solar and solar batteries at the highest technology, whatever, I can tell you, the technology is not ready.
The technology's not.
Certainly not for a building to be solar powered in December.
If that's what you're relying on, yes. What's good is actually the current generation of solar panels are much better than the previous generation of solar panels, which deteriorated over 5 years. So when you put the solar panel up today, literally 5 years later, it was only getting 50% of its capacity. That's now improved to 25 years. So the life of the solar panels we have today are much better than the previous generation, and they will certainly help. But it's not what you can rely on, especially if your only source of heating your apartment or heating your home is electricity. You can't then rely on a variable supply system to feed the network.
so what are we doing?
Well, it means until there's some other solution, we still need to burn natural gas
Okay.
to generate electricity, at least on the plant level. And please understand that the coal produces the most pollution, including the most carbon dioxide. Oil produces about 30% less carbon dioxide than burning of coal, and about half of the other particulate pollutants. Natural gas produces half the carbon dioxide that's burning coal and none of the pollutants. So natural gas is a transition energy that burns much cleaner than oil or coal.
But the fracking's a problem.
But the fracking's a problem.
Right.
And the problem isn't fracking in New York, because we don't have much. The problem with the fracking is not the inherent source of the gas. It's that it's in most states that are unregulated, and it lets the frackers go into the ground and then walk away.
They just frack things up.
They just frack it up.
Frack it all
up.
up.
If there was actually if there were national standards, or if there were state standards that regulated in a more serious way the release of natural gas from unused wells or from operating wells, fracking could be a useful technology.
But all this aside, what are we going to do this winter? Like, what a developer, I'm building a building, like oil prices are through the roof, natural gas, whatever, I can't do it anymore. So you're just saying we're gonna put in these electric systems, basically this heat pump systems, and this is this is the way to go. Hey, see, it's the hydrocarbons.
No.
They're messing up
It's
their
acid
lungs.
reflux. It is the case that if we were designing a building today,
Yeah.
in New Jersey.
Right.
We're looking to do a building today in Soho. Those buildings will be all electric.
Of course.
They'll be all using VRF electric systems, high efficiency heat pumps to provide heating and cooling, and they will do so at a competitive price to natural gas, and certainly cheaper than oil, right? As we found with your house, right?
Right.
You'd save about $2,000 a year.
Yep.
But his house has an oil backup.
That's
Because
right.
at 0 degrees, when it gets
20
really
degrees,
cold,
20 degrees, heat pumps don't work.
which happens, they don't really work.
So
and you
that's the
need
case for small heat pumps.
Okay.
Right? For larger heat pump systems, a heat pump, for people who don't know, is an air conditioner that runs in reverse. Right? So it can run as an air conditioner, but then literally as if you could turn the machine around, so the part that ejects hot air is in your apartment, and the part that ejects cold air is outside. That's the basic system of a heat pump. It's an air conditioner that runs in both directions. Smaller systems, like the one you did for your house, are efficient, and they're much better than they used to be. At 20 degrees, they heat. It still has 80% of its rated capacity, but at 5 degrees, it's down to less than 50%. And it's even more complicated because heat pumps, they're computer controlled, and they're delicate machines. And if the intake air is too cold, it can damage the machine. So if your intake air is sub 50 degrees, which means for whatever reason it got cold fast and you were away from the house for a while, you can't even turn that system on. You need to get the ambient air to above 50 degrees before that system will help you at all. Now, there are alternatives. There are very high efficiency systems from Mitsubishi and Daikin, those are the two biggest suppliers, that will get 80% of their rated capacity at 5 degrees. And so they really can be a reliable source of heat in the New York market with some supplemental electric heat added so that you're heating the system.
So
it's not the system that's going to make everybody freeze, it's the fact that the electrical grid can't.
Right now we can't, right?
Which-
We cannot. The electric grid has nothing near the capacity. So what do you guys usually recommend for your clients in terms of, do people care about what kind of heating and cooling systems are in their
They
buildings?
care, but we're not recommending anything to them as much as they're deciding on whatever the building they're looking in. So some buildings obviously have wall-through air conditioners, some have central air, some has 4-pipe, heating and cooling. It really just depends. Obviously, ideally, most people want at least a wall-through air conditioner, just something you don't have to put through your window.
But
The heating is actually not, like, very rarely does heating come up.
Yeah, I think if you see a PTAC unit, which is sort of like the suitcase under the window, right? That's really the cheapest system for heating and cooling a building as a developer.
But you can state that as a central AC.
Yes.
And what I've found is most buyers are fine with that. Obviously, if you have, forced air or, a ducted system and so on and so forth, it's a lot more luxurious.
And people don't care because those units are so noisy when the AC
I
is
agree.
running in a PTAC.
I
it's
agree.
very
People care,
noisy.
but
But
listen.
if you're buying in a post-war building, that's what you get.
But this is
You
what
get a
we're
PCAP.
talking. This is all about
PTAC.
price, right? In the end of the day, yeah, of course. If I could buy in a brand new luxury building with ducted air, then I would take that. But most people are just trying to find a place that suits their family, and sometimes you want the high ceilings. You gotta go into that pre-war, and that pre-war, might have steam heat. And
It's funny
heat's
because
great.
a lot of the
It's great. You get a lot of heat, and you get it for free
Right.
because it's a building cost.
oh no. Oh yes, it's a building cost.
But the
right.
funny thing is a lot of the most expensive real estate on Park and Fifth Avenue are these very pre-war
Right.
landmark buildings.
No air
and you
conditioning.
can't have you can't have a lot
Wall
of
through.
these systems.
Yeah, because if you're on Central Park West or any of these landmark districts, you're not allowed to put a AC through the wall.
Right.
So you have the most expensive real estate on Central Park, and you have a window unit.
Right.
It is pretty ugly.
Like London Terrace.
Yeah.
London Terrace has got these beautiful units, beautiful area. You got window air conditionings.
Yeah.
I mean, the Landmark Commission, to take that into account when they try and convert all these buildings, that some of the buildings that are landmarked, you have to come up with a reasonable solution to them, because using, windowed air conditioning units,
It's not helping the environment.
It's not helping the environment. It's not helping the grid, because some of the systems you're talking about are way more efficient than what you would get at PC Richards, right? Like whatever window unit you're going to get at Best Buy is not going to be as efficient in cooling an apartment in 90-degree weather as the units you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? The systems you're talking about. And if they are going to try and convert those systems, and they want to take into account whether those systems will actually work or not, and will have the electricity, they might want to come up with a better solution for some of those landmark buildings as well.
Well, centralized heat pump systems work roughly at twice the efficiency or consume half the electricity for the same amount of heating and cooling as through-the-wall air conditioners. Even the best one you could buy at PC Richards, you know, 15 SEER. We can get 30 SEER systems from Mitsubishi and Daikin.
So,
Well,
so
the one thing I can tell you is that solar, right, you know, at a small level can be helpful, but it's not a solution. It's just not a solution.
not yet. So, but it sounds like the solution for today is heat pumps, and the solution to tomorrow, we haven't quite figured it out yet.
And a better grid. Because
So-
if you're gonna have electric cars and heat pumps everywhere, you're gonna need a lot more electricity.
All right, so, thanks for joining us, and please follow us on YouTube.